Okay, so picture this. You're in Seattle, right? Ferries are going across the harbor, and all of a sudden, a pod of orcas surfaces.
Yeah.
Right there, like in the city. And these aren't just any whales.
Right.
These are the southern residents. They're like the rock stars of the orca world.
Absolutely.
But there's this darker truth behind that glamorous image.
Yeah.
This population is endangered, and today we're going to do a deep dive into what makes these orcas unique, why their matriarchs are so crucial, and what their struggles might teach us.
It is a fascinating puzzle, isn't it? You see these powerful creatures in this urban environment.
Yeah.
But they're facing this crisis.
It's a real paradox, and one of the biggest mysteries is menopause.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredibly rare in the animal kingdom.
It is.
Besides humans, there's only like a handful of other species that experience it.
Right.
Orcas are one of them.
And from an evolutionary perspective,
Yeah.
it's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
The whole point is to reproduce and pass on your genes.
Right.
So why would a species just stop doing that halfway through?
It's like nature's throwing a curveball at us for a long time. Scientists thought, well, maybe it's a side effect of captivity.
Right.
That animals are living longer than they would in the wild.
Right.
But we know that that's not true.
We know that's not the case. No.
We look at hunter-gatherer societies.
Yeah.
It's a natural phenomenon.
It's not a quirk. It's deeply rooted.
Yeah. So the question remains, why?
Why indeed?
And there are a couple of leading theories, right?
So one is this so-called Hugh Hefner hypothesis.
Okay.
And that suggests that males prefer younger females, and that drives evolution.
Okay.
Basically, older females, they stop reproducing because they're not attracted to the males anymore.
Makes sense on the surface. I have a feeling orcas would disagree.
They would. You're right. Observations have actually debunked that idea.
Really?
Older female orcas have been seen soliciting younger males.
Oh, wow.
So it's not a matter of them being ignored.
That's so interesting. It really flips the script on how we think about aging and sexuality.
It does, and this leads us to the other theory, the grandmother hypothesis.
Okay.
And this one argues that females stop reproducing so they can support their offspring,
Okay.
grandchildren, and that ensures the survival of their genes.
So it's like switching from player on the field to being the coach.
Perfect analogy. And orcas, with their social structure, they provide a fascinating case study for this.
Yeah, because early researchers studying the southern residents, they made a surprising discovery.
They did. They initially mistook young male orcas for females.
What?
Because it turns out that even after they reach sexual maturity, male orcas stay with their mothers for life.
Wait, seriously, most mammals, the males disperse?
They do, exactly.
Yeah.
But orcas have this lifelong bond, and it's not just sons, daughters also maintain strong ties.
Wow.
So you have these tight-knit family groups, unlike anything we see.
So these orca families are like super bonded units led by these experienced matriarchs.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what kind of wisdom they're passing down.
It's a key question. And this unique family structure is what makes orcas so valuable for studying menopause.
Okay.
It provides a different lens.
So tell me more about these orca grandmas. What's their role? How does that post-reproductive stage play into things?
Well, imagine this. A 60-year-old female orca catches a salmon, breaks it in half, and shares it with her fully grown son.
Wow, that's like the ultimate supportive mom.
Exactly. And research has shown that sons' survival is directly linked to their mother's lifespan, especially after menopause.
Wow, so the longer mom lives, the better the son does.
That's right.
That's incredible.
It is. But it raises another question. If having experienced grandmothers is so beneficial, why stop reproducing at all?
Yeah, why not keep having babies and be a wise grandma?
Right. And this is where things get interesting. Because elephants, they offer a counterpoint.
Okay, how so?
Elephant matriarchs also demonstrate the value of elder wisdom. They lead their families through droughts to food and water,
Right?
protect them from predators, but they continue reproducing into their 60s and 70s. So the orcas must be facing some other pressure that's pushing them towards menopause.
It's like there's a missing puzzle piece.
Exactly. And to understand that piece, we need to shift our focus from the benefits of menopause to the costs of continued reproduction.
Okay, what kind of costs?
Well, for orca mothers, daughters are more expensive to raise than sons.
Okay.
A young female orca needs a lot more food when she's nursing,
Okay.
putting a strain on resources, especially if mom is still breeding.
So it's like this generational tug of war for food.
In a way, yes. And then there's this fascinating kinship dynamic. Remember how we talked about males coming from outside the pod?
Yeah, the fathers aren't part of the same family group.
Right. So when a female orca is born, her father isn't a member of her pod. So her ties to the pod are initially weaker than her mother's.
Okay.
But as she has sons, those ties strengthen.
I see.
The mother, on the other hand, she's been a part of the pod her whole life, so her ties are stronger from the get-go.
So mom is always going to be more invested in the group's success.
Exactly, and this difference in kinship creates this potential for conflict,
Okay.
especially when resources are scarce. And the data actually shows that calves of older mothers are more likely to die when there's generational overlap in breeding.
So menopause becomes a way for the older female to step back,
Right.
reduce competition,
Minimize conflict, invest her energy in her existing offspring.
and ensure the well-being of the pod.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a fascinating example of how evolution can shape behavior.
It is.
It makes you wonder, are there similar dynamics in other species, even in humans?
That is a great question, and
Huh.
we'll explore more. But for now, let's shift gears a bit and delve into the world of orca research.
Okay.
You see, studying menopause in wild orcas isn't straightforward.
Right. You can't just ask them about it.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
how do we unravel these mysteries?
Yeah.
This is where the research gets creative and maybe a bit smelly. We're going to talk about Dr. Deborah Giles and her work with whale scat analysis.
Whale poop, seriously.
Yes, whale poop. It's
Yeah.
a goldmine of information.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this poop-powered science.
It might sound strange, but analyzing whale scat allows researchers like Dr. Giles to learn a lot.
Okay.
What an animal eats, its stress levels, its reproductive status, even exposure to pollutants.
So it's like a biological snapshot?
Precisely. And the methods they use are pretty ingenious. Dr. Giles and her team actually have a scent hound dog trained to sniff out orca scat from a boat.
A poop-sniffing dog? That's incredible. I bet that dog has the best job in the world. Okay, back to the science. What have they learned about the southern residents from this, shall we say, unique approach?
It's been illuminating, but also concerning scat analysis has revealed high pregnancy failure rates, likely due to nutrition.
Okay.
Remember, they specialize in Chinook salmon, and those populations have been declining.
So they're not getting enough to eat, which impacts their ability to reproduce.
Exactly. And this brings us back to adaptability. We know other orca populations that have a diverse diet, they're doing much better.
So why are the southern residents clinging to this salmon-only diet?
It seems like their culture, their traditions might be working against them.
It's like their legacy, which has served them well, might now be a liability.
That's a key point. It's as though their cultural legacy is now a liability in a changing environment.
It makes you wonder if they've been able to adapt to city life. Why can't they adjust their diet?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's not easy. You know, hunting marine mammals requires different skills.
Right.
And those skills are learned and passed down through generations.
But with those older whales dying off, that might be disrupted.
That's the concern. It's like losing your library or your history books. There have been some hopeful observations of younger orcas playing with seal pups, but they haven't started hunting them yet.
So there's hope that they're exploring other options.
Yeah.
But it sounds like time is running out.
Unfortunately, yes. And this brings us to the human element.
Yeah.
Dr. Giles has been very vocal about our responsibility to act. She argues that if we don't make changes from shipping to fishing to pollutants, we're dooming them.
So she's saying we're morally obligated to change our ways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She believes that saving these whales could be a catalyst for positive change, a wake-up call.
Yeah.
And she's not alone. Many scientists argue that the southern residents are a symptom of a larger problem, the entire Salish Sea ecosystem.
So it's not just about saving one species of orca, it's about the entire ecosystem.
Precisely. The orcas are a flagship species, an indicator of the health of the Salish Sea.
Okay.
If they're struggling, it's a sign that we need to look at our impact.
So let's talk solutions. What can we do to help these orcas to protect the ecosystem? It feels like a daunting challenge.
It's not easy, but it's essential. We need to address the salmon decline by restoring habitat, reducing overfishing, and mitigating climate change.
These are big changes.
You're right. These require long-term commitment from governments, industries, and individuals.
Yeah.
But there are things we can do personally, too, like supporting organizations working on conservation, reducing our carbon footprint, being mindful of the seafood we choose.
Right.
All those actions can collectively make a difference.
It can feel overwhelming, feeling like one person can't change anything.
I understand. But I think Dr. Giles offers a message of hope. She believes that if we can save these whales, we will have done a tremendous thing.
Yeah.
It's about holding on to that hope and pushing for change.
Hope and action, those are the key ingredients. And speaking of hope, I want to go back to those orca brains.
Yes.
What can we learn from their intelligence, their social complexity about navigating these challenges?
That's an excellent question. The orcas With their communication, their social structures, their empathy, they offer a blueprint for a different way of being in the world.
Okay, tell me more. What lessons can we learn?
Well, for starters, they highlight the power of collective wisdom, the way they share knowledge, the importance they place on experience. It's a stark contrast to how we prioritize youth and speed.
It's like we've forgotten the value of elders.
Exactly. And their tight-knit social bonds, the way they support each other, even those who are struggling, it challenges us to rethink our own social structures, our notions of community.
So it's not just about preserving their species, it's about learning from them, letting their way of being inspire us.
Precisely, their story is a call to action, an invitation to examine our values.
Yeah.
It's recognizing that we're not separate from nature.
We're a part of it.
And that our fate is intertwined.
It's a lot to take in this conversation, has opened my eyes to the complexities and challenges, but it's also given me hope knowing that there are different ways of being in the world that we can learn from.
I think that's a perfect place to pause for a moment. We've covered a lot of ground, and I imagine our listeners are eager to process all this.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like they're giving us clues right there in their poop.
Yeah, exactly.
And Dr. Giles has been really pushing for this type of research.
Yeah, it's fascinating and kind of funny at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But it gives us so much information.
So what have they found out about the southern residents from this poop?
Well, one of the things they're finding is that these whales are having a hard time reproducing. Yeah, they're seeing high rates of pregnancy failure.
Okay.
And it seems to be connected to food or the lack of it.
Right. They're not getting enough salmon.
Exactly. They specialize in Chinook salmon.
Right.
Which have been declining, and that's putting a real strain on them.
So basically, they're not getting enough to eat, and that's impacting their ability to have healthy pregnancies.
That's right. And it makes you wonder, why don't they just switch to something else?
Yeah, like other orcas eat marine mammals, right?
Yeah, exactly. Other populations have a more diverse diet. They're doing much better.
So are the southern residents just picky eaters, or what's going on?
Well, it's more complicated than that.
Okay.
They've been eating salmon for a long time.
Yeah.
As part of their culture,
right.
Their tradition. And now that's becoming a problem.
It's like their legacy is working against them in a way.
Yeah, it's this interesting paradox. Their specialized diet, which has served them well, is now a liability in a changing environment.
It makes you wonder if they were able to adapt to living in a busy waterway like the Salish Sea. Why can't they adapt their diet, too?
That is the big question, isn't it? And it's not as simple as just deciding to eat something different.
Right, because you have to learn how to hunt different prey.
Exactly. Hunting marine mammals is a whole different skill set than hunting salmon. And those skills are passed down through generations.
No. Right. So with the older whales dying, are they losing that knowledge?
That's the fear. It's like losing your library.
Right.
Right? Those older whales are the keepers of the knowledge.
So are there any signs that the younger whales are learning new hunting techniques?
There have been some glimpses of hope.
Yeah.
Researchers have seen younger orcas playing with seal pups.
Oh, that's interesting.
But they haven't actually been seen hunting them for food.
So maybe there's a chance they could learn, but it sounds like they're running out of time.
Yeah, and this is where we as humans have to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Because Dr. Giles has made it very clear we have a responsibility here. She's saying we can't just sit back and watch this happen. We have to make changes in how we're impacting the environment.
So what kinds of changes are we talking about?
Well, everything from how we manage our fisheries.
Okay.
To reducing pollution.
Right.
To looking at shipping practices that might be disrupting the orcas.
So it's a multi-pronged approach.
It is. It's about recognizing that our actions have consequences and that we have a moral obligation to protect these creatures.
She's basically saying we're responsible for their fate.
Yeah, she believes that saving these whales could be a turning point for us.
A wake-up call.
Exactly. A wake-up call to start taking better care of our planet.
And it's not just about the orcas, right? It's about the entire ecosystem.
That's right. The southern residents are like a canary in a coal mine.
Oh.
If they're struggling, it's a sign that the whole ecosystem is in trouble.
So what can we do to turn things around? I mean, it feels like a pretty overwhelming challenge.
It is a big challenge, but it's not insurmountable. We have to start by addressing the root causes of the problem, like the decline in salmon populations.
Right.
We need to restore their habitat, reduce overfishing, and really look at how climate change is impacting them.
Yeah, these are big systemic changes.
They require long-term commitment and collaboration.
From everyone.
From everyone, exactly. But even small actions can add up, supporting conservation organizations, reducing our own carbon footprint.
Making sustainable choices.
Yeah, being mindful of the seafood we choose. All of these things matter.
It's easy to feel powerless in the face of such a big problem. Like, what can one person really do?
I hear you. But I think Dr. Giles's work is a great example of how one person can make a difference. And she has this unwavering belief that we can turn things around.
Yeah.
It's about holding on to hope and taking action even when it feels daunting.
Hope and action. I love that. And speaking of hope, I want to circle back to those incredible orca brains for a moment.
Good.
What can we learn from their intelligence, their social complexity, about how to navigate these kinds of challenges?
You know, it's interesting because they really do offer a different perspective on intelligence.
Yeah.
They show us that there are other ways of being smart, other ways of processing information and solving problems.
Like what kinds of things?
Well, look at their communication skills.
Okay.
The way they cooperate and share knowledge, their deep understanding of their environment, it's all very sophisticated.
It's like they have a different kind of intelligence than we do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about being smart. It's also about their capacity for empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
The way they care for each other, support their young, even look after those who are injured or disabled.
It's amazing.
It really challenges our own social values, doesn't it?
It does. It makes you think about what we could learn from them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They embody this sense of community that we could really benefit from.
Yeah, and yet they're facing extinction because of us.
It's a stark reminder that we're all connected and that our actions have consequences.
So what's the takeaway here? Are we doomed to repeat this cycle of exploitation and destruction?
I don't think so. I think the orcas are showing us another way.
Okay.
A way that honors the interconnectedness of life, that embraces compassion and cooperation, that seeks to learn from the natural world.
That's a powerful message, but how do we actually put that into practice?
Well, I think it starts with humility.
Okay.
Recognizing that we don't have all the answers.
Right.
And that we need to be open to learning from other sources of knowledge, including the natural world.
So it's about expanding our definition of intelligence and wisdom.
Exactly. And it's about working together, pooling our resources and knowledge to find solutions.
It's about remembering that we're not alone in this.
We're all part of the same web of life.
And that the orca's fate is ultimately our fate as well.
Exactly. Their story is our story.
It's a sobering thought, but also a call to action.
It is. It's a challenge to do better, to be better.
And to create a future where both humans and orcas can thrive.
I think that's a perfect place to pause and reflect. We've covered so much ground, and it's important to let all of this sink in.
Wow, so much to think about.
Yeah, it really makes you appreciate just how complex these creatures are.
It does, and it makes me wonder, are we really the most intelligent species on the planet? Or are we just measuring intelligence in a way that's biased towards our own abilities?
That's a great question, and I think the orcas really challenge our assumptions about intelligence.
Yeah.
We tend to focus on things like language and technology.
Right.
But the orcas show us that there are other ways of being smart, other ways of processing information and interacting with the world.
Yeah, like their communication skills are incredible.
They are, and their ability to cooperate and learn from each other.
Yeah, and their knowledge of their environment.
It's all very impressive.
It is, and it's not just about their intelligence, it's their empathy and compassion.
Absolutely. The way they care for each other, it's really remarkable.
It's like they understand that their strength lies in their unity.
Exactly. They're a great example of how a society can thrive when it prioritizes the well-being of the group.
And yet, despite all of this, they're struggling to survive because of us.
It's a tragic situation, and it highlights the impact we're having on the planet.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder that our actions have consequences for all living things.
And it raises some uncomfortable questions about our own values and priorities.
Like, are we really willing to sacrifice an entire species for our own convenience?
It's a question we have to grapple with, and I think the orcas are offering us a path forward.
Okay, how so?
Well, they're showing us the power of collective wisdom.
Okay.
The importance of respecting our elders and learning from the past.
Right, they have this deep reverence for experience.
They do.
Yeah.
And they remind us that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's so much knowledge out there that we can draw on.
From both human and natural sources.
Exactly. And they're also showing us the power of cooperation.
Right, they work together so seamlessly.
They do, and they remind us that we can achieve great things when we put aside our differences and work towards a common goal.
So maybe the key to solving these big global challenges is to start thinking more like an orca.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in that approach.
It's about recognizing that we're all connected and that our fate is intertwined.
And that we have a responsibility to care for each other and for the planet.
It's a powerful message, and I think it's one that we all need to hear.
I agree. It's a call to action, a call to wake up and start making different choices.
Yeah, it's time for us to step up and be better stewards of this planet.
It is. And the orcas are showing us that it's possible.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. If a species as intelligent and compassionate as the orcas is struggling to survive, what does that say about our own future?
It's a question we all need to ponder.
And it's a challenge to do better, to be better.
Because the choices we made today will determine the world we inherit tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of orcas.
It's been a pleasure sharing this deep dive with you.
We hope you've gained a new appreciation for these incredible creatures and for the delicate balance of life on our planet.
And we hope you'll join us in the fight to protect them and to create a more sustainable future for all.